Namo Namaha Bhaktam Sarvesham Hardam Swagatam. Welcome back to this channel Sanskrit Sopanam. I hope you are doing great. I am also good. And continuing in our series Learning Sanskrit through Gita, today we are decoding the 14th shloka from the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And again, I hope you have completed all the previous shlokas. Why I am repeating this again and again? Because from 11th shloka, Shri Krishna, he is now responding. And all these verses that we are covering now, this is like a single dialogue, a continuation dialogue. So the previous shlokas, their context, their meaning is very important to understand the current meaning of this shloka. So I hope all of you have covered all those previous shlokas. If not, you can cover them first, then come to this video. But anyways, without wasting any more time, let's begin decoding this shloka today. Okay, so this is the shloka that we'll decode today. Let me go through the shloka once. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha Agama payino nityas tanstitikshasva bharata. So as you can see with this shloka, it have quite long words. Shitoshna sukha dukkha daha. And then you have almost this entire second line combined together into a single word. Agama payino nityas tanstitikshasva bharata. So this is what happens when you have the freedom of sandhi, right? So in the next slide here, you can see the sandhi vichhed version of the shloka. Okay. And now you can see that this combination word, this combined word, it have these individual words. Agama payinaha, anityaha, tan, titikshasva, and bharata. This was anyway separated. So you can clearly see some sandhi is happening here. It is a ukara sandhi that is happening here. Then you have another sandhi, that is a sakara sandhi that is happening here. And then you have yet another sandhi that is happening in between these words. That is why all these words, all these individual words, they are combining together into this single long word. Okay, but anyways, all the sandhi detail is as usual in the PDF file. These words that you see, Shitoshna, Sukha, Dukkha, Daha. So these words are also combined together using individual words, but this is a samasa. Okay, so when we decode the shloka, then we take a look at the samasa, right? But again, repeating this point that all the sandhi details, what all sandhis are happening in the shloka is available in the PDF file along with the word by word breakdown of the entire shloka. The PDF file downloaded from the link in the description box. So I won't go into that part. We'll just directly jump into the decoding of the shloka. But before that, I want to address one thing here. When you see such kind of shlokas where you have so many long words, all the individual words due to sandhis, they are combined together. So when you encounter such shloka and when after doing sandhi vicheda, you get all the individual words out. So even though you don't understand the meaning of the words, even though you don't know the meaning, but still try to identify those words that might be interconnected with each other. And how can you identify that? Is by looking at their word form. That in what vibhakti, in what word case or what vachan, number they are in. So try to at least identify those 2 or 3 or 4 words that might be interconnected with each other. And see, what I mean is, once we have done the sandhi vicheda and once we have got all the different words separated out, okay, so you might not know the meaning of these words, matra sparshaha or shitoshna sukha dukkadaha or anityaha. So you might not know the meaning of these words, but if you just look at them, matra sparshaha, then dukkadaha, anityaha. So don't you see some relation of these words with each other? And I hope that every one of you can guess that these words, they are in a prathama vibhakti bahuvachana form. That is in the first word case plural form. And why? Because we have seen such kind of word forms before, a lot of times before. Those that are ending with this aha. Because if you take the example of this word balaka, so normal pratipadika balaka. So we all know that the prathama vibhakti bahuvachana, first word case plural of this pratipadika is balakaha. So this kind of word form we have so often seen, and that is what is happening here. Matra sparshaha, dukkhadaha, anityaha. And even though this word, agama payinaha, so even though this word is not having the similar kind of word form, but this word is also in the same first vibhakti, first word case plural form. Because if you have taken note of the nakarant pratipadika, if you have taken note of these words also, and we have came across such kind of pratipadika also, like manoharan. So this is a nakarant pratipadika. And for this kind of pratipadika, the plural, first word case plural form is manoharinaha. So it is like this, manoharinaha. So if you remembered such kind of pratipadika and what kind of form it generally takes, then you would have identified this also. Then you could have taken this educated guess that, okay, I don't know the meaning yet, but I think this might be coming from such kind of pratipadika, agama payin, a nakarant pratipadika. And again, all this is still only a guess, but this is a educated guess. Educated, why? Because we have seen these kind of pratipadika, these kind of word forms before. So it is like an educated guess. And the benefit of this is, once you have identified that these four words, I think they are interconnected with each other. So how can be they interconnected? So one word out of these might be the principal noun, and then all the rest of the words might be its adjective. Right, because we know that the adjectives, the pronouns, they strictly follow the vibhakti and the vachan of its principal noun. So it is again another educated guess that out of these four words, one of these words will be the principal noun, and then the rest of these words might be its adjective. Because see, when you try to identify these words and try to associate these words together, then the whole decoding process becomes easier. It becomes a lot easier because then you start to pay attention in the minor details also. So this is just one suggestion, that try to identify the associated words with each other. It is just a good practice to do so, okay? And if not anything, then at least you practice your vibhakti with these word forms, because agama payanaha. So a lot of you might not be able to recognize this as a first word case plural form of a nakarant pratipadika. But now you know that manoharan, in Prathama Vibhakti Ekvachana, it becomes Manohari, but in plural it becomes Manoharinah. So looking at this, Agama Payanah, you could have identified, you could have taken this guess that it might be coming from Agama Payan, a Nakarant Pratipadika. So this way you also practice these things. Okay, so just a suggestion. But anyways, now let us start decoding the shloka. And we are starting with this dhatu roop, titikshaswa. And this kriya pad, this means you endure. Okay, so the speaker, he's talking directly to the second person, that is the listener, Madhyama Purush. Okay, and since we know that speaker is Krishna and he's talking directly to Arjuna, so basically Krishna is saying Arjuna that you, Arjuna, endure. Okay, but let us understand this word. So this dhatu roop is coming from tich, this dhatu. And this dhatu of course means to endure or to tolerate, to bear, in that sense. Okay. And this verb root here is in second person, that is Madhyama Purush, singular, that is Ekvachana, and imperative mood, that is Lot Lakar. And we know that this imperative mood is used when we are making a request or we are giving an order. So within the context of the shloka, Krishna, you can think of it like an order, because as a teacher, he is instructing him, Arjuna, that Arjuna, you must endure. So it is like kind of an order, but it is more like a stern suggestion. Okay, a sincere suggestion. So either way, you can think of it. Okay. That is why I've written this, that you must endure. Okay, titikshaswa. So I hope it is clear. And now when we move on, so the obvious question is what to endure? That Arjuna, you must endure, but what? And in a response, we get this pronoun, tan titikshaswa. Tan simply means that endure them. Okay, so this pronoun is obviously just coming from that tat pratipadika, since this is like an object of this action, that you must endure them. So obviously it is in second word case and plural form. Okay, bahuvachan. Because we know the second word case singular for this tat is tam, right? We have seen this. And the plural is tan. So it is just saying that you must endure them. Okay, so Arjuna tan titikshaswa, that you must endure them. And again, this is like a secondary statement that Krishna, having said this entire verse as a dialogue, in conclusion, he must have said this, that okay, Arjuna, you must endure them. But before this, he must have explained what is them. Okay, that is why I'm repeating the question, that punaschikan, that I'm basically repeating the question, what is this? Okay, and the response we get is matra sparshaha. And matra sparshaha, this is our primary, this is our principal noun. Okay. So now you will easily understand that all those different words, sukha dukkhadaha, agamapayanaha, anityaha, all these will be adjectives of these word, of this noun, right? But anyways, we will see about it when we'll decode further. First, let us understand this word, matra sparshaha. So this samasa have these two individual words, matra and sparsha. Sparsha, this is a very common word. A lot of you might know the meaning. Sparsha simply means contact or interaction. Okay, in both these meanings you can take. Within the context of the shloka, contact, this works fine. And this matra, so this means material element. Okay, and by material element I mean all the objects of the external world. So anything in the external world that evokes a reaction, that evokes a feeling or a reaction within us, so that is a material object. Okay, so this pratipadika matra, material element, that means all the objects of the external world, or we can also refer to them as sense objects. Why? Because anything that is outside and that we can perceive, that is a sense object, right? Because whatever we can perceive through our sense organs only. So basically with this samasa I am trying to convey this, that matranam sparshaha iti matra sparshaha, that the contacts of the sense objects, or I can rephrase it as the contacts of the senses with their objects. Okay, matranam simply means of the sense objects. So this is the Shashti Vibhakti, the sixth case plural form, right? Matra changing into matranam, and again, sparsha contact, it is just the plural, sparshaha. So matranam sparshaha iti, matra sparsha. Why? Because when they combine in their pratipadika state, and the vibhakti is only applied at the last word. So matra sparshaha, what we see in the shloka. Okay, but I hope this word, this samasa is clear, that the contacts of the senses, the contacts of our five senses with their sense objects. Okay, so in the external world, whenever we perceive something, so it is perceived by our mind, but through our sense organs. So when these sense organs, these five sense organs that we have, when they come in contact with their respective objects, so an impression is created, and that impression is perceived by our mind. Okay, so basically whatever impression is generated, that is being referred here by saying the contacts of the senses with their objects. Okay, so I hope the meaning is clear. Don't get confused as to why this tan, this is in the second word case, but this here is in the first word case. And since I mentioned that this pronoun is pointing to this noun, so why both of them, their word cases are different. So don't confuse it. Why? Because this matra sparshaha, so this all that we'll decode further, this is part of, you can think of it, the first statement that Krishna makes in this verse. And then he makes another statement when he continues with this tan titikshasva. So this tan refers to whatever he spoke about in that first statement that we will decode now. So basically the use, the contextual use of both of them, both of these words is different. That is why this here is in the first word case, because this is the subject of the statement that Krishna is making, but this here is the object because he is referring to it as the object of this action, that you must endure them. But anyways, this will be further clear when we will decode and do the anvaya, so I'll move on. And now, as we have already figured out that this is a principal noun, so all the rest of these words are like adjectives. That is why I'm asking this question, that kidrishan, that what like. So how is it described in the shloka? So the first adjective is shitoshna sukha dukkha daha. That means that these contacts between the sense and the sense objects, these contacts are those which give rise to sensations such as hot, cold, pleasure, pain, etc. So as I already mentioned, Shita, this means cold, Ushna, this means hot, Sukha, this means pleasure, Dukkha means sorrow, pain. And when we add da with something, so this da, this represents the giver of that thing. Okay, the giver of that thing. So this da basically in the sense of to give. Okay, so for example, Ambuda. Okay, so Ambuda. So this is, can you see, this is formed by two words, Ambu plus da. So da, now you know that when we add this da, so that means giver. But giver of what? So giver of Ambu. And Ambu, this refers to water. So now can you identify what this Pratipadika would mean? Ambuda, the giver of water. So this Ambuda is used for clouds. Okay, and clouds again. Why? Because from clouds we get water. So this is how you get this Pratipadika. But the point is this da. That this da, this denotes giver of something. And now you can identify that why the matra sparsha, the contact between the sense and the objects, why it is described as the giver of these things. Why? Because only when our sense organs, they come in contact with the external objects, then only you get some feeling, then only an impression is created which gives rise to some or other feeling. So these contacts are what which give rise to different sensations. And just as an example, few of those feelings, few of those sensations are mentioned here, that hot, cold, pleasure, pain, and that is why I'm putting this etc. Okay, so I hope the meaning of the word is clear, and grammatically again you can already see that why we are saying daha. It's just because here the principal noun, it is in plural form. So of course, this daha, changing it into the plural form, right? And grammatically just one more thing, Sheet Ushna. So of course, there is a gun sandhi that is happening here. That is why it is combining as Sheet Ushna. Okay, but I hope these are already very clear. We'll move on. And now I am again repeating the question. Why? Because we are further describing these contacts. That these contacts which give rise to different sensations. So what are these contacts like? And now we are describing these contacts as Agama Payanaha. That simply means transitory. That is, they come and they go. So in this samasa, we have these two words, Agama and Apayan. So Agama, this Pratipadika is coming from Gam Dhatu. And Gam Dhatu, we already know this means to go. Actually, this Ay, this also means to go. Both these Dhatu means the same thing. And we have seen this before, that when we add this Upsarga, A Upsarga, so it just means the opposite of it, that instead of to go, to come. So Agama, this denotes something that comes, that approaches. And apayan, so this pratipadika, this is coming from the dhatu, ay dhatu, that again means to go. And just like we had a upsarga here, so we have another upsarga, up upsarga here. So with this upsarga, we get this pratipadika, apaya. Okay, and apaya again, just as agama, this means something that comes, that approaches. So apaya, this means something that goes away, that departs. Okay, and here apayan. So what is happening, that this pratipadika is being further modified using this suffix ini suffix. Okay, so we have seen suffixes that generally attach with some dhatu, right, with some verb root, and it creates a new pratipadika. But there are also suffixes that combine with some already existing pratipadika to create some other pratipadika. So this ini, this suffix is one such suffix. What does this suffix do? When you want to convey that something or some person is endowed, is possessing of this pratipadika, of this thing. Okay, so to convey endowed with or possessing of whatever this pratipadika it is connecting with, so we use this ini pratyaya, ini suffix. So for example, you have this pratipadika jnana. Jnana means knowledge, right? And when I modify this pratipadika using this ini suffix, so we get another pratipadika, that is jnanin. And who is jnanin? So jnanin is someone who is endowed with knowledge. Okay, because from this pratipadika we get the form jnani, a wise person, a knowledgeable person. So from one pratipadika we are getting another pratipadika. From this jnana we are getting someone who is endowed with this jnan using this ini suffix. Okay, so I hope this suffix is clear. But anyways, apayan. So apayan will mean something that is endowed with going, or basically you can properly rephrase it as something that goes, something that departs away, in that sense. So together this simply implies that something that comes, that approaches, and that goes away, that departs away. And that is why I've mentioned it as transitory. Again, it is transitory. Why? Because it comes and it goes. So anyways, the entire meaning is that matra sparsha, that the contacts between the sense and the sense objects, that shitoshna sukha dukkhadaha, that give rise to different sensations, different feelings, are agama payanaha. They are transitory in nature. They come and they go. Because is there any sensation, is there any feeling in the world that stays forever? No. We feel something, then it goes away, it dies down. Because no matter how exciting it is, if there is some new thing that we wanted, some success, some new object that we wanted, so the moment we buy it, so that joy, that happiness, that shoots up. But in some time, in few days, so it reaches its plateau stage. It reaches it, the peak point. And then from there on, it starts to dies out. So that is what is being referred here. That all these sensations, all these feelings that are generated by the contact of sense and the objects, so all these feelings are transitory, that they come and they eventually fade away and eventually ye pass on. So that is what is described here, agama payana. Okay. And there is just one more adjective that is being used. And this one is simple, anityaha. Okay, so very simple. You can already see the pratipadika is anitya. And actually within this also, you can identify the primary pratipadika, nitya. Nitya is something that is permanent. Okay, that is forever. But we are negating it by using this a. Okay, so anitya, something that is impermanent, something that is momentary. And again, since this is also an adjective, so again, in the plural form, anityaha. Okay. And again, why is Krishna saying that all these sensations, all these feelings, all these impressions generated by the contact between the sense and objects, why are they impermanent? Simply because there is no object, there is no external object in the world that can give us the same feeling at all times. Okay, so it is impermanent, it is momentary. And the moment can last for some time, some minutes, some hours, some days. But the same object cannot give us the same feeling forever. And this we witness, no? Because in childhood, we love candies. But now that we are grown-ups and we have at least that much money that we can buy loads and loads of candies, but do we do that? No, because the feeling that we used to get when we were child with those candies, that feeling has changed. So that feeling, that that impression has changed. And that is what Krishna is talking about. And that is true for all the feelings, for all the different external objects of the world. So that is what Krishna is explaining here. And now you see this entire section. So this is like the first statement where Krishna describes this contact between the sense and the objects to Arjuna. That what is it contact, what does it give, and what is its nature. So first he described it, and then he said that tan titikshasva. That, oh Arjuna, you must endure them. You must endure tan. You must endure them. Okay, so I hope this is clear, but let us see the Anvaya, the translation also. So in this shloka, as you can see, Krishna is referring to Arjuna with two different names, Kaunteya and Bharata. And Kaunteya, this simply means Kunti son. Okay, coming from the Pratipadika Kunti, the descendant of Kunti, Kaunteya. And then Bharata, so we have seen this Sambodhana being used for Dhritarashtra. Why? Because this Bharata, this actually is coming from the Pratipadika Bharata. And Bharata, this refers to the king. This refers to the king that was like a forefather of this entire Kuru clan. So when Sanjay refers to Dhritarashtra as Bharata, coming from this, that descendant of King Bharat. So he is right in referring to Dhritarashtra as descendant of King Bharat. And similarly, Krishna is referring to Arjuna also as, O descendant of King Bharat. So by using this same word, Bharata. Okay, so we just have to understand the meaning, then it can be used for a lot of people. But anyways, Kaunteya, O Kunti son, Matra Sparshahatu, the contacts between the senses and their objects, which do what? So Shitoshana Sukha Dukha Daha, which give rise to the feelings of heat and cold, pleasure and pain, etc., are but agamapayanaha, are but transitory, that is, they come and go, and anityaha, they are impermanent. Okay, so whatever impressions you get, whatever feelings you receive by your interaction with the outside world, all these feelings are but transitory and impermanent. And so Bharata, O descendant of King Bharat, tan titikshasva, that you must endure them, you must tolerate, you must bear with them. So that was the entire translation of the shloka. And in Vedanta philosophy, actually, there is a beautiful thing that says that all the objects of the external world, they are basically inert in nature. They are completely neutral in nature. Why? Because a single object does not give the same kind of feeling to everyone. So there can be some fruit, one fruit. So I may like that fruit, but some other person may dislike it. And same goes for all the other things. We go and watch out a movie. So a lot of people, they like the movie, they enjoy the movie. It is a joy for them. But for others, it is a dull bore. So it is a sorrow for them. So in short, it is not the objects of the external world that give us joy, that give us sorrow, that give us pain, but it is our relationship that we choose to build with them. That gives us joy, that gives us sorrow. So it is a beautiful thought, it's a beautiful, beautiful thought, because if we realize this and if we try to live this, then we get rid of so much pain, so much sorrow. Because again, it is our own understanding of that thing. It is our own relationship that we build with that object. So in a kind of way, Krishna is trying to point this thing to Arjuna. And again, the transitory and the impermanent nature of it, we have already seen this. Because for an individual ourselves also, what we liked or what brings us joy in the childhood, it may not be the same in our adult age, and again it will not be the same in our when we grow old. So our relationship with those objects keep on changing. So what we receive out of them, what emotions, what sensations we get out of them, that also keeps on changing. So again, we have discussed this point that for a system that is finite, change is the only constant. So since this external world, this outside world is finite, it may have a lot of different things, lot of different objects. It may have countless objects, but it is still a finite system. And for a finite system, change is the only constant. So that is what Krishna is telling, and that is why he's saying that endure them, tolerate them, bear them, but don't get too much attached to them, because again, realize this truth that they are ever changing, they are just but fleeting. The moment may stretch, but it will eventually pass on. So don't get involved, don't get emotionally unwisely attached with it. So that is what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna with this shloka. So actually, this this kind of advice is something. It is like a first aid advice. That if a child falls, if something bad happens to even us, we got scolded in our job and everything. So it is the first response that our friends will give. That don't worry, this will pass, or don't worry, times will change. It will be a better time in the future. So this is the first advice, like a first aid band-aid we give to our friends, our close one. But you can see the pattern, some very peculiar thing that happened here. Then in the last three shlokas that we saw, Krishna, he opens up with a bang. He opens up with such huge transcendental truths about the self, about the eternal nature of that self, about the nature of death, about how that soul, that Atma, that self takes up another body and how it is very natural for it. So he opened up with those big transcendental truths. And then after those three shlokas, after giving that initial shock, he is coming back to this mellow thing. That, okay, Arjuna, try to understand this thing. That take comfort in this fact that all this is but transitory, but momentary. So it will pass. So So don't get too attached with it. So this is he's like he started with the bang. Now he has gone mellow. And but why he started with the bang, I don't know. Maybe it's like a shock therapy or something. Only Krishna he can know. But very interesting thing to note here. But anyways, I hope all the words and everything, it had long big word samasas, but I hope the meaning and everything was clear. Again, download the PDF file so that you can refer to it later for anything else. I'll meet you in the next video in another shloka. Until then, stay awesome, stay happy. Vayam punah milamaha. Dhanyavad.